Hello, and welcome to this special place to be with God. As you know, where you are or where we are when we're in this room, any of these places can be a special place to be with God, a place where we can talk to God and listen to God and tell the stories of God, and a place where we don't have to hurry, where we can rest and know that we will always have all the time we need. So I'll start this morning with our greeting. Peace be with you. And your response is, and also with you. Today is the 19th Sunday after Pentecost. So I wish one of you could be here to change our calendar, but I already changed it for us. And so it is pointing to the 19th Green Sunday, which is the 19th Sunday or the 19th week after Pentecost. And Pentecost is the red Sunday at the bottom. So we are moving closer and closer to our next season, the Purple Sundays, which are, as you know, Advent, when we're getting ready for Christmas. So I will light our Christ candle. To remind us that Christ is always with us, especially when we gather together to hear one of God's stories. And so I invite you to get your bodies ready and settled in to hear God's story, and then we will sing together, Be Still and Know. So maybe the people in your room watching with you know this song by now and can do the actions with us too. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. So when we sing that song, we know it's time to hear one of God's stories. So I'm going to read our story first out of the Bible. And it is found in the second book of the Bible, which is called Exodus. And it's chapter 3, and I'm going to read verses 1 through about 1 through 12. Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian. He led his flock of sheep beyond the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of a bush. He looked, and the bush was blazing, yet it was not consumed. Then Moses said, I must turn aside and look at this great sight and see why the bush is not burned up. When the Lord saw that he had turned aside to see, God called to him out of the bush, Moses, Moses. And Moses said, Here I am. Then he said, Come no closer. Remove the sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. And then he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. And then God said, I have observed the misery of my people who are in Egypt. I have heard their cries on account of their taskmasters. Indeed, I know their sufferings. And I have come down to deliver them from the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And then God said, So come, I will send you to Pharaoh to bring my people out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? He said, I will be with you. And this shall be a sign for you that it is I who sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall worship God on this mount. So we're going to learn a little bit more about this story. And so I will keep our Christ candle burning, but I'll move it to the side. This is the desert box. So many important things happen in the desert that we just need a piece of it in our room to tell our stories. The desert is a strange and a wild place. At nighttime, it is very cold. But in the daytime, it is burning hot. There is almost no water here. And the desert is always changing. The wind blows and it shapes and it molds the sand. So the desert is never the same. Moses was a shepherd. And one day, Moses and his sheep were in the wilderness. And Moses brought his sheep to the edge of the desert. And as they were walking, Moses noticed a bush that was on fire, but it wasn't burning up. And Moses said to himself, I'm going to go check this out and see why this bush is not burning up. And as he neared the bush, the voice of God came out of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And Moses stopped and said, I am here. And God said, don't come any closer. Take off your sandals, for you are standing on holy ground. And then God said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face. He was afraid to look at God. And God continued, and God said, I have heard the cries of my people who are slaves in Egypt, and I have chosen you to go bring them to freedom out of Egypt to a new land. And Moses wasn't so sure he was the right person for the job. And so he argued with God. And Moses said, who am I to lead the people to freedom? I cannot even speak very well. And God said, I will be with you. I will help you speak to the people, and I will teach you what to say. And so Moses prepared to go to Egypt to lead God's people to freedom. I wonder what questions you have about this story. I wonder what Moses might have heard when he saw, what sounds did Moses hear when he saw that bush burning? I wonder how it felt to hear God's voice coming from the bush. I wonder if you have ever stood on holy ground. I wonder why Moses was afraid and hid his face. I wonder why God chose Moses. I wonder what it felt like to know that God had chosen me for such an important job. I wonder if God has ever helped you speak up and helped you find the right words to say. You probably have more questions that you can think of too. Now I'm going to change our light to remind us that the light of Christ that was in one place at one time can be in many places wherever we go. Amen.